Good day, world. So, another black man has been shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So, what is this about? Right? Young kid, 17 years old. He, from Illinois, went up to Kenosha, to AR-15, I believe, which is, AR-15 is a standard assault rifle. It's just a favorite among hunters, shall I say. It's favorite among hunters or gun enthusiasts. It's very easy to shoot, and it can take down big game. It's just a favorite gun, and it's really, really reliable. So, 17-year-old comes to Wisconsin with AR-15. Kid goes hang out with the militia group. No one knows if he's a part of that militia group. Talks to cops that night. Nobody questions why this 17-year-old kid have a gun. I'm not sure if they knew his age or not, but the fact that he looked like a kid, and he was communicating with cops regularly, that a question of about age should have came up. I mean, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, he looks like a kid. Cops should have did the same thing. Now, here's one of the things that boggles me. A black man, 40-year-old black man, walked down the street with an assault rifle, and the cops asked for his license. Right? Been happening all over the United States. But for some reason, no one asks this 17-year-old kid for a license. So that's a tricky thing as well. This kid was also an aspiring police officer. He was, I think they call them police cadets at one time. So he knows the commitment and the pledges that cops take, but still, he didn't see it was he didn't think it was wrong to show up with this protest with AR-15. So, as the story goes, the latest, he's hanging out with the militia groups. They're armed. These militia groups take it upon themselves to protect a gas station. First off, first thing that we need to attack is these people that's showing up at these riots with firearms, right? With the idea that if you burn property, we're going to shoot you, right? So, I don't think there's an actual law in place that allows a third party to kill someone to protect someone else's property, to protect property. You can shoot someone to protect your property, but I would really like to know, like, what's the legal loophole that these militia groups are using to get the cops to stay off their back from using the threat of violence to protect a property that's not owned by them. So I wonder what that legal loophole. If you know, leave it down in the comments. I'll look into it. But I've looked up quite a bit of self-defense law. I know there's law that allows you to protect someone from being harmed. There's laws that allows you to protect someone from being harmed if they're committing a felony. So maybe that's what it is. But anyhow, so there's a militia group. He's hanging out with the militia group. There's all type of chatter online about people coming to these protests with the intention of shooting protesters. Was this kid a part of that chatter? No one really knows. Not yet, but here's the story that the police is putting out, because I believe they are laying a ground for defense. He's going to use the self-defense clause. He's going to use a self-defense claim. He says he was running. He was being chased. He tripped and falls. And in order to protect himself, he turns around and shoots. This is what they're saying. I don't know how true it was, but they're definitely laying the ground for a possible self-defense suit. He's currently now charged with murder, first-degree murder. I think that's appropriate, but that is not what we should be. That kid is just a symptom of a bigger problem. The focus, by keeping the focus on this kid, neglects to address, neglects the problem, neglects our need to actually address the real problem that's going on. If we don't tackle this, we're going to see protesters shooting militia groups and militia groups shooting protesters. I mean, there's quite a lot of, I guess that they call leftist militia groups. There's quite a lot of now black firearm clubs. This could be the start of a civil war if we do not address the real issue at hand. The issue at hand right now is not this militia group shooting people. It's cops killing black men. That's it. At the root of it all, if Jacob Blake did not get shot 7 times, this would not have happened. I mean, in effect, I will say that that cop should be charged with manslaughter. He indirectly caused the death of someone else. I mean, I know that's a stretch. That's a very, very long stretch. But I've seen situations like that before. That's why manslaughter exists. Property damage. Grocery stores, gas stations. It's not new. The message should be get property insurance, not get a gun and protect a statue or protect a car. Because the idea that someone's life is worth less than a vehicle or a building is rooted in the same ideology that black lives are worth less than other types of life, or black and brown lives are worth less. So the fact that Trump is sending National Guards to protect statues with firearms, with shoot-to-kill orders, it's problematic. That is a root cause that we are dealing with, but no one seems to want to address this fundamental flaw in democracy about this right to bear arms. And I believe in everyone's right to bear arms. Your right to protect yourself. You have that right. You have the right to protect your property as well. You should not have the right to show up at protest with firearms. Period. That should be charged on the scale of terroristic threats. Period. If you're organizing groups of people to show up at protests with firearms, everyone in that group that shows up should be charged with terroristic threats. Period. It's a threat. When you set up a sniper's nest That's a threat. So why are police forces across the nation not treating it as so? Know why? Because these militia groups are tied into police forces. A lot of them are ex-military, a lot of them are ex-cops. And they sit with cops. They break bread with police officers at these protests. They introduce themselves as the non-violent portion of the protest, or the non-violent group, but you're carrying, assault rifles, 50 caliber assault rifles in many cases, sniper rifles. For what? So, what we need to be asking ourselves as we move into this era of step one on the 5-step process of starting a race war, what we need to be asking ourselves is, if the police know that these armed militia groups are showing up at protests with firearms, and they are causing problems and disturbances, and come with the idea of shooting to kill if someone's property is infringed upon, why are they allowing it? So we must say now, after this has happened a few times already, that the militias group is in line, the militia group ideology is in line with the police force ideology. Here's why so. That 17-year-old kid shot this kid and tried to turn himself in immediately. He ran towards the police officers with his hands in the air, with the assault rifle on. And the police looks at him and asks, who's shooting? Anyone hurt? And he says, yes, over there. And they tell him to get out the way. The crowd is telling the cop that he's the shooter, and they ignore him and go. There is no way in the world you can tell me that white privilege doesn't exist. This guy walked towards the cop, ready to turn himself in, hands up. With his hands up. As the shooter. And they told him to leave. This is 2020 America. And guess what? He did it again. He approached another squad car that was sitting by. They didn't arrest him. Then he fled to back home, I guess, to Illinois. Or something. Imagine that person being a black man or brown man. But the fact that this guy or this kid was interacting with the police first earlier on, previously to the shooting, they automatically assumed that he was innocent. And this is what white privilege is. The ability to be innocent until proven guilty. And you know who was not innocent until proven guilty? Was not treated as innocent until proven guilty? Jacob Blake. That police officer acted as the judge, the jury, and executioner. So, it's not much I can say about this Kenosha situation. It's coming from the top down. If our president is sending forces out to protect statues, the states are taking the lead and doing the same. And the cities are taking the lead and doing the same. And the towns are doing the same. So this is what happens when you have terrible leadership. That's all I have to say. Until next time, thanks for watching.